Second, because I can't see. Perfect. Okay, so can you all see my slides?
Yep.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And you see them in full screen? Yeah? Okay, perfect. Grand. Just let me see if anybody's missing or if we can start. We never use Zoom for our meetings, so I'm very unfamiliar with the platform. I'm much more comfortable with Teams. All right, so welcome back, everyone. This is your second session with me and your second last, incidentally. And today we're going to talk a little bit about digital transformation. When we talk about digital transformation, that will mean different things for each and every one of you, depending on where you're at in that journey. Some of you might be already there. You might have adopted digital technologies to support your business. You might have started looking at digitalizing your business, and some of you might be still at the very analog stage and are looking to even just digitize the business. So we're going to look at that journey a little bit, and I'm going to introduce the key digital technologies that we have available today and their potential. It wouldn't be a session on digital transformation without talking about artificial intelligence and automation. So we're going to talk a little bit about the potential and also the dangers of these technologies. And then we'll talk a little bit about what you can do as a business to protect yourself in cyberspace. So just to put it into context, we are at stage 2. You still have quite a bit of the journey to go. And we will look at digital transformation today. You'll remember that we looked at strategy and innovation last week. And then next week, we will look at winning new markets through the use of a case study. And then you'll move on to the second module, which will focus on marketing. You'll remember the 3 pillars that underpin the entire journey of the program. From a knowledge perspective, in this specific session, we will look at the opportunities and benefits of adopting digital technologies. You'll become more familiar with the cyber risks and some cybersecurity practices that you can implement. I will signpost you to some resources that the government has put in place for small businesses to increase their cybersecurity. From a mindset and skills perspective, you will become more motivated, hopefully, to keeping abreast of key digital technological developments. You'll become more aware of what those are and their potential. You will have taken a strategic approach to the implementation of new digital technologies. You'll have an awareness of some of the challenges and some of the opportunities in that space. And in terms of action, you will have had some time to think about how you're going to prioritize the steps in terms of the digital adoption of digital technologies and AI. Artificial intelligence is a very complex realm. It's a realm that's, to a certain extent still fairly unknown. It has endless potential. It has endless risks for us as individuals and businesses as well. So trying to understand that is critical. And I'm not going to have all of the answers. I have more questions than answers myself at this point, but we can't just bury our heads in the sand and hope it goes away. We need to tackle it. We need to ride that wave and tries to seize the benefits as much as possible, no matter how challenging that might feel. And then in terms of your action plan, you'll start looking at how you can implement these digital technologies within your strategies. So there are four sections in this session. The first section, we will look at using technology for business model innovation. So we will pick up on the business model canvas that we looked at last week. So the various functions and the various sections that constitute your business. And we will look at some examples of how you can embed digital technologies within that. So there are digital technologies for pretty much any function within a business. So we will have a look at how and the types of digital technologies that can be implemented within the business model. In section 2, we will look a little bit deeper into artificial intelligence, both as an opportunity and as a disruptor of business. Then very briefly, we will look at what you can do to implement these technologies and some of the challenges that many SMEs might face. And in section 4, we will look at cybersecurity, cyber risks, and again, those resources that the government has put in place for you to protect the business as much as possible. And we will have some key points in the session where we will break out into rooms and discuss how these technologies can apply to your business, and talking a little bit about the journey that you've been on in your specific businesses. I'm sure that some of you have started embarking on this journey. Some of you have adopted some digital technologies. So talking a little bit about that and your experience with that. So let's start with the first section, which is using technology for business model innovation. So when we talk about business models, you'll remember hopefully this figure. This is the business model canvas, and it dissects the business into various components. You have your value proposition, your customer segments, relationships and channels. Then you have the operational side, so your key partners, key activities, key resources. And then beneath that, you have the cost structure and the revenue streams that hopefully offset each other, and even better if you're making a profit. And then to add the sustainability dimension, you have the eco-social costs of the business and the eco-social benefits. And digital technologies can really apply to any and several of these at one time. So when we talk about digital transformation, we're really asking, how can you use digital technologies to innovate your organization's business model? Which new digital tools might you implement within your business model? And to add that sustainability goal, we talked a little bit about this last week, where it's no longer really a choice for businesses to embed a social dimension and environmental dimension within their strategy. Well, how can you use digital technologies to move towards those social and environmental goals and help you manage your impact? So just to give some context to this conversation, we are now in the fourth industrial revolution. So we had the first industrial revolution in the 1780s with mechanization, and this is where most business and most production activities were performed through the steam engine, and there was an initial shift away from animal labor and human labor to using machines, hence the term mechanization. Then we moved on to the second industrial revolution in the 1870s, when they invented electricity, and that became the primary source of power. Then you move on to automation of the third industrial revolution, where machines started to take over more repetitive tasks, simpler tasks, and that freed up a lot of human labor to carry out more value-adding activities. And this is where mass production became very, very popular. Then we had a mid-industrial revolution, so Industrial Revolution 3.5 with globalization in the 1980s. This is when borders started to come down, international trade became much more common. Companies and countries started integrating and internationalizing more, and that resulted in more knowledge sharing, more technological integration. Incidentally, this is when the internet was invented, and internationalizing and exporting your products across the globe became a lot faster, a lot easier, and a lot cheaper. Right now we're in the fourth industrial revolution, so digitalization. And digitalization is really embedding the technologies on the left-hand side there that I'm going to talk about, that are these new digital emerging technologies like artificial intelligence, the Internet of Things, big data, your digital twin, and I'll talk a little bit about these. And it's resulting in a world that's much more interconnected, integrated, connected. We have much more data that we can use and process. And we're not there yet, but based on these technologies, we're moving towards the fifth industrial revolution, which is not too far away. And it's where we will see much more personalization. And by that, I mean mass personalization. Typically, customizing services and products has required a lot of human intervention, human cognition, understanding the customer, empathizing with the customer, and really leveraging what we know to be the human value added activities and human value added capabilities, which is creativity and understanding and empathy. And with the use of these technologies, we're going to see that at pace and done by machines, which is really exciting and really scary at the same time, because we just can't control the exact direction of this technology, especially when we talk about AI and its potential. So what are these 10 digital technologies that are leading this digitalization industrial revolution? Cloud computing, so the idea of storing data in the cloud, having these servers, these databases that are enabling users and companies to store data in the cyberspace. 5G technology, or 5G mobile technology, which is the latest version of the mobile network. It's much faster, it has greater capacity. The Internet of Things, which is the idea that electronic devices can communicate with each other, they can share data. You might have, for example, a sensor that is monitoring a manufacturing process, and that sensor is capturing data on that process and communicating that back to a hub. And that hub gives the user knowledge. They can tell you whether that particular process or that machine needs intervention, needs maintenance, and it can really have preventative powers. It can be used for energy saving purposes if you're monitoring your manufacturing facilities and your manufacturing processes. Are there energy losses? Is there time lags that you could increase in terms of efficiency and speed? And that the power of that data. Oh, sorry. I hadn't seen that somebody was in the waiting room. Apologies. I hope everybody's in now. Sorry. Just might check. I think that's everybody. And you can really use the Internet of Things in many settings. Even in your own households, you will have devices within your household that have that connectivity aspect. You might have an app on your phone, and you can monitor, your washing machine, your dishwasher. You can, turn the lights on and off centrally. So it's that connectivity of devices. Big data and AI, artificial intelligence, we will look at this in a little bit more detail as we go along, but it's this mimicking of human cognition in machines and the ability to process huge amounts of data and predicting patterns through that data through the artificial intelligence. The digital twin, which is really interesting technology that it enables especially product-based companies, but it could be used in service-based companies as well, to create a prototype in the cyberspace, so virtually. So you don't have to develop a prototype physically. You don't have to invest in those processes and R&D. You can use a machine to develop that in a digital format, and that can be really useful to illustrate your customers, for example. So that doesn't exist yet, but you can show them a prototype digitally. Augmented reality through the use of, say, virtual reality devices. So you layer a virtual reality on actual reality, and you can show your customers, again, for example, what the intended service or the intended product will look like. And you can create additional realities that you can delve into. Really useful if you're an architect, for example, and you want to show consumers or your potential clients what their extension might look like or what their building might look like. Additive manufacturing, 3D printing, so this layering of materials to generate end products, robotics and cobotics, so using robots alongside humans to generate or to be involved in the manufacturing process, and really leveraging the ability of robots to perform manual and repetitive tasks very accurately. It reduces human error and also frees up time for humans to do what they're actually good at, which is adding value and think about processes and products and services in creative and flexible ways. API integration, which is something that probably affects most of you, is the integration of software and program packages within your business. So if you have a HR piece of software and audit and marketing software, you get them to communicate with each other in effective and integrated ways. And then blockchain. The blockchain is a chain of transactions that is it's decentralized from the parties. It is unchangeable. So when you're engaging in transactions, you create a blockchain, you add a block to that chain, and that is not changeable. So anybody within that chain and even outside that chain can look at the blockchain and trust the information within it. If you want to check the origin of a product and there's a blockchain, you can be sure that that is the path that product followed because the blockchain cannot be changed. So it increases the transparency and trustworthiness of those transactions without the need of a third party being involved. I'm going to show you a brief video that illustrates these much more succinctly than I did. And if you have then any questions, I'm happy to take them. And if you can't hear, just let me know.
Can't hear it, Lisa.
Yeah, I can't hear it either. This happened last time, didn't it? Somebody told me what to do in this case. I remember.
Lisa, if you stop sharing and then if you reshare, but then tick the share computer sound button before you hit the reshare button again.
Okay, so stop sharing.
Yeah, and then hit share again.
Okay.
And then there should be a button at the top right from memory which says share computer sound. It's a checkbox. Share
sound, yes.
Yeah, tick that and then share it.
Okay. Optimize for video sharing. Let me see.
That's it.
Can you hear that?
Yes.
Okay.
That stopped, Lisa. It's not. No.
I have no idea. Oh, there it is.
Yep.
Okay, I couldn't hear it for some reason. Again, the same thing happened last year, and I can't see your faces again. So just give me 2 seconds and I'll get your faces back up. I don't know why I don't have the option to see you. Oh, there we go. Maybe show meeting. There we go. You're back. All right, so remove this. Why is this not going away? Okay. You can all see the screen again, yep?
Yep.
And just to add the layer of sustainability, the potential of these technologies is really endless. And we will talk a little bit about how those apply to businesses, because that's really why mostly we're here for. But it is important to emphasize that they have a role in moving forward in terms of gaining and reaching sustainability goals. They can act as a channel for the delivery of key resources, especially in settings where vital human resources are not necessarily easy to access. So they can play a role in giving access to education and healthcare. They can help provide data and insights to inform policy and mobilize institutions and social communities by gathering that data. There is so much power in developing and in capturing data. And if you are able to capture data on, the emissions, level of emissions that companies are having in certain sectors, you can feed that back to institutions, to government agencies, to social enterprises that can then mobilize that change. It can support in the development and adoption of circular economy business models. It can act as a catalyst for more collaboration through that greater connectivity that these technologies can provide, especially in terms of ecosystem cooperation. They can support in agriculture. There's a huge push, especially in Northern Ireland, towards agri-tech, trying to get agricultural companies to adopt more technologically advanced sustainable food systems. So the potential of these technologies, even within the sustainability realm, is endless. But moving back to the business focus, there are a number of opportunities that you can capture and identify through the use of these technologies. There are new opportunities for business, new revenue sources, and really where a lot of you will fit is in the enabling change, reducing error and efficiency and productivity. So this is really dependent on your business and the scope of your business, but can you identify new opportunities that can really enhance the value proposition that you're trying to deliver, or the way you deliver that value to your customers? Is there a way in which you can embed AI in your business in a way that shapes the business itself, or opens up new avenues? And it could be, providing an additional service like using remote interaction with your customers, or using AI to interact with your customers and understand your customers better. Can you find new revenue sources? To give you a very practical example, if you think of social media companies, they have several value propositions that they are trying to deliver. They are delivering value to the end user through the use of that social platform, sharing your lives and seeing content. They're also capturing data from you. They're monetizing that data. So through the use of technology, they're finding new revenue sources. And then very intuitively, these technologies can support in increasing your efficiency and productivity, finding new ways of doing things and better. So they can reduce the double handling of data. They can make sure that that data is integrated across the business. So if you have various different functions, can you increase the connectivity across those functions so that the data is shared and you're all working on the same basis? And this goes, hand in hand with the efficiency and productivity, enabling change and reducing error. If you rely on technology and on real-time data capture and reporting, the chances of human errors are significantly reduced. Humans are not great at processing data. We are much better at generating creative outcomes, original outcomes, and that's why it's scary that AI is probably going to surpass our abilities in that space as well. But even the technologies that we have today, they're much better at capturing data, reporting data, processing that data. And then that can enable our change. That can really be shaped to support our scaling strategies or our new directions. So trying to find ways in which you can embed these technologies within your business and identifying where in the business. So thinking about your business models and which aspects you can find opportunities to improve in terms of efficiency, productivity, by adopting these technologies or some of these technologies is really something that you need to think about when you go back to your businesses. So this is the business model canvas. So how might we embed digital technologies within our business models? Of course, through our value propositions, introducing digital products and services, customer segments, how do we improve our understanding of our customers? How do you capture that data, process that data, understand the patterns and predicting future outcomes based on that data? Customer relationships, can you use data visualization devices and technologies to show your customers what you're trying to achieve? So thinking about VR, virtual reality, augmented reality, and the digital twin technologies, how can you illustrate what you're trying to achieve? Channels, so how you communicate with your customers. You could use chatbots. AI-driven chatbots are extremely useful if you need that flexibility and responsiveness to customers. We've all had, experiences of dealing with chatbots that are very restrictive, and if it's you get to a point where they can't answer the question and you have to speak to a service or a customer service advisor, can you find a way where the chatbot is sufficient because it's fueled by AI and they have the responsiveness embedded in them? Customer relationship management systems, online marketplaces. Do you have a website? Can you create a website to get access to customers and deliver added value through those channels? And NFTs, non-fungible tokens, cryptocurrency. So in terms of operations, supply chain monitoring, Internet of Things would be your key partners. Key activities, can you use augmented reality, process automation, robots, for example, 3D printing? Key resources could be pieces of software, so even off-the-shelf software as a service, including HR software, audit software. Here there's a little bit of a debate whether off-the-shelf or customized softwares are better. In past cohorts, there's been a blend of both, a little bit of both. Sometimes off-the-shelf are just cheaper and handier, and it's very difficult to get customized pieces of software for SMEs, depending on what it is that you're trying to achieve. But oftentimes the off-the-shelf ones don't really target your specific needs. You might need a skilled workforce, which is something that came up even in the peer sessions, the lack of the skills that you need in the workforce. And social media. In terms of cost structures, accounting software, blockchain. So we talked a little bit about what that is. Revenue streams, finding new ways of capturing that value proposition, invoicing and revenue processing softwares. In terms of your sustainability elements, could you use software tools that capture your carbon emissions and eco-social benefits, digital solutions to social and environmental problems, finding ways in which you can increase the efficiency and the environmental impact of the organization. Any questions at this stage or any comments? Okay, so very briefly, I'm going to get you to share your experiences with digital transformation, but it's worthwhile emphasizing that most of you will fall within one of these two realms, and a lot of you will probably be somewhere in between. So when we talk about digital transformation, we're talking about the shift, the transition from a digitizing, so an analog stage, to a digital stage. So you're moving from analog to digital, and then you're embedding digital technology. So that would be your digital transformation. So really there are 3 steps. When we talk about digitizing, we talk about converting analog information, so pen and paper, into digital form. There are many benefits to doing this. It is quite time consuming. It's a huge hurdle to overcome, but it's always worth it. And I've had participants on this program over the years say that, you know, it feels like it's such a huge hurdle. You have stacks of paper that need to be digitalized or digitized, and it just feels huge, but it must be done. You don't have enough storage to keep all those sheets of paper, and also it's just not practical to process that information, and it is wasted data as well. So examples of this would be scanning a document into PDF. So you would have it in digital format, scanning a photograph, capturing printed or handwritten notes on the computer. Benefits: faster access to information, more permanent storage of information, access to historical data. That idea that you are wasting valuable customer data if it's in physical format. You're also putting it at risk if there is, say, fire, and you lose it all. Possible tools: scanner, digital camera, online forms, and software. So here we're pretty much at the step 1 stage of the digital transformation. When you're moving to digital transformation or digitalizing your business, you're embedding digital technologies into your processes and interactions. Examples: instant messaging, monitoring equipment using sensors. So this can be really useful if you have production lines. How do you monitor the health of those pieces of equipment? Do they need maintenance? Could there be an issue that it's going to cause business discontinuity? That preventative part is hugely important and hugely impactful to businesses that can't afford business discontinuity, which is most businesses. Assembling products by robots, so that robotics and cobotics technology. The benefits: increases in efficiency and productivity, greater accuracy, much lower chance of human error. You have more data, and where you have good quality information, you have better decision making. Enhanced visibility of that data. Possible tools: ERP software, predictive maintenance systems, robotics, and controller systems. So now I'm going to move on to you, and I'm going to ask each of you where you're at in terms of your digital transformation journey. It might be that you're still at the analog stage. Some of you might be at the digital transformation stage. Let's see where you're at. Let's see if I can see you. I can only see a few of you. Paula, do you want to start?
Yeah, we're definitely at the analog stage.
And are you thinking of moving to a digital stage?
Well, we are talking about trying to digital with recipes and ingredients and invoicing from suppliers, and trying to manage costs along that way. But it's finding the program that suits.
You mean the piece of software?
Yeah, the software, yeah.
And have you moved in that direction at all, or are you just thinking about it?
We have talked to one agency, but we haven't done anything about going with them, just simply because it didn't quite fit the profile. But it is something that we want to look at.
Okay, thank you. Robbie?
I think we're in the digital transformation phase, I suppose, if you're splitting it into two. COVID probably started the digitizing and digital transformation to a certain extent, I suppose, moving everything onto cloud server off the on-premises. And we're pretty much paperless now. The next stage would probably be to get rid of the printers. The next stage of our digital transformation, I suppose, is more automation of workflows and reducing costs, particularly the administration costs. So we're kind of a target of reducing those by 30% in the next 12 to 18 months. So we'll continue with this, finding opportunities incrementally to automate, streamline our workflows. Yeah.
What technologies are you thinking of adopting?
It's all under Microsoft 365. So we'll just stay with Microsoft because we're familiar with it and we pay for it. So using SharePoint and Power Automate, Power BI for reporting. Yeah, just whatever Microsoft can offer at the moment. There are other things that are probably easier to use, but I don't really want to get into fragmenting more software licenses than I have to.
Okay, thank you. Elaine?
Hi, yes. I suppose since 2022, we have been undergoing digital transformation. We had several filing cabinets of data, of member accounts and things that we then were able to scan into the system. And now that's paperless. Everybody's online, obviously, as of a couple of years ago. Just as Robbie was saying there as well, we have our cloud server as well. Everything's backed up on there. We're not 100% paperless yet. We're still undergoing some digital transformation in terms of joining forms and IDs and things like that. We're moving towards our, we developed an online banking app, which we live back in October. So it was another string turbo for the digital transformation, which provides customers with 24/7 access to their account, and means less emails for our team. It's quicker for the customer. Also loan application scoring, but there's a real person at the end of all that, but it helps with all those processes as well. But we're not 100% paperless yet. So the next stage is, for somebody to be able to scan, directly from the app, their IDs, or just join directly from the app rather than filling in an actual form. So that's where we're at with that.
So you have a physical person that's deciding whether to approve applications or not?
Yeah, we have on the online system, it takes you through, the application, somebody can apply online, but it is, because as a credit union it's very much people-based.
Yeah.
And it's just not a computer says no scenario. So we do look at all data with regards to that. And if there's anything else required, we obviously speak to the person directly as well, just to get a bit more information. So we just don't make, the computer just doesn't make an absolute decision there and then, unless there is something comes up with like a credit file or something like that there.
Okay, thank you very much. Sean?
Yes, we went through a pretty significant digital transformation phase since COVID. I suppose just the nature of what we do, training courses and also health clinics as well. With COVID, it was impossible to get people in close proximity in a classroom or else in a clinic. So what we did is we moved to, with the training end, we moved into the e-learning world. So we developed self-directed e-learning content. We involved video shoots, scripting video shoots, content development. We upskilled ourselves using some off-the-shelf development software, which I suppose that enabled us to roll a lot of our courses out without any human interaction, which is a real bit of a game changer for us. And we were able to steal the march on our competitors as well. So since then, from the training end, we've been able to develop that further into blended learning, where we're able to have a portion which is self-directed online, but then also a portion in the classroom. And we have plans to further digitally transform and deliver blended learning, and that's a part of the grant, Lisa, that I was at that talk that you presented, to explore I suppose a bit of funding around that, where we're able to provide training to classrooms where there's a delegate mix of online delegates like this, and also in classroom delegates, and then there's free flow of communication and learning within, I suppose, the one environment. Obviously then with the clinic as well, we also moved to digital means as well, which is basically delivery of clinics through means such as Zoom or Teams, secured down obviously, and using some specialist equipment for I suppose viewing maybe skin conditions or viewing people's ears and things like that. So we have significantly transformed then since COVID. We also looked at our systems too as well. So we have a training management system for the training end, which incorporates a lot of automated workflows and decision making as well. A portal too for hosting the training courses and hosting the clinics. So yeah, there's been quite a bit done, but there's obviously, you can keep adding to these. It's really endless in how far you can take a digital transformation, but we've made good progress since COVID, and that was driven by COVID. As one of the main positives to come out of COVID for our business was it really forced our hand, and we embraced it and moved pretty quick to do that, to do so.
Yeah, exactly. I think many businesses are in that. Even universities, we wouldn't have this if it wasn't for COVID. And yes, you mentioned the Digital Transformation Flexible Fund. For those of you who are interested in investing in digital transformation, they are run at different points in the year, so there will be further calls. But the NI councils are have launched the Digital Transformation Flexible Fund, which is a fund that will match 70% of your funding from £5,000 to £20,000 per financial year. And you would need to demonstrate that you're going to adopt one of the digital technologies, and there's 6 categories, among which are the ones that I spoke about. So AI, your VRs and augmented reality, your sensors, blockchain. So if you can find a way to embed those in your business, and you're going to demonstrate what kind of benefit the business would have from those digital technologies, there's funding available for that. So I'm happy to have a chat with you if you're interested in finding out more, which is beyond the scope of this program, but as that's another hat I wear, it was worthwhile mentioning. Thank you very much, Sean. Sinead?
Hi, sorry. Yeah, so we're definitely in the digital transformation stage. We are currently go live 1st of May for our new IT system. So we're in the throes of testing, which will be throughout the organization. So it's basically using an ERP system and software. We've also changed our web, which is going to go live in the next couple of weeks. Hopefully will be live just before we go on the 1st of May with the IT system, all linked in. So again, and then we've also got our promotion books. Now, what we found is that the more that we try to move, my preference is to be digital, but the consumer or our shops, the retailers, prefer a book and prefer the paper in front of them. So the more it doesn't seem to matter how much I push against it and stop printing, we just seem to still print a lot. And I don't know how we can move away from that. It's just at the end of the day, it's what our customers want to be able to place their orders. So but we have given them all the options where we can. So yeah, we're just in the throes of it here.
Great, thank you. Myra?
Hi, so I suppose I'm a bit of both. I am on the journey of digitalization. It's a relatively new business, so we do our training online. I do have a CRM system, and I use Microsoft 365 for various planning and processes. However, my finance and my accounting is not digitalized. It is to a certain extent through my online platform. Invoices and so on are sent out automatically, that kind of thing. But my accountant and who I use, I need to do a bit of work there. I do have an online learning platform. So again, that's all digitalized, and everything within that is good. I'm trying to think where else I need to look at. Probably the accounting and the finance side is where I could do more. Everything else is pretty much digitalized and streamlined and working well. I could do more in the marketing side of things as well on social media in terms of automatic emails and workflows through sort of promotion and stuff like that. But yeah, work to do.
On the journey.
On the journey.
Thank you. Kyle?
Yeah, we've done most of our digitizing. We were using paper files up until about 2019, which now looking back on it seems crazy. But everything now is on digital files. So there's very little paper in the office. We still have digital files kind of prior to 2019 that haven't been put on, but nothing new is going into paper folders anymore, thankfully. A big one we did recently, we had our old kind of CRM system, which had no kind of API integration. So decided to change that to a system that you could plug in other software to it, and that's been that's been massive. You know, we did that about 3 years ago, so that the new CRM system is kind of the bedrock, if you will. And now we've got, off the back of that, you can, you know, your software for invoicing speaks to the main system, your software for clients bidding speaks to the main system, your auto emails all comes off it. So, and we can keep adding to that with whatever new apps or whatever comes out of it. So so that's been really good. Sean mentioned it, it doesn't really end, does it? You know, there's always something new, or there's always something to keep you competitive. So I'm always kind of on the lookout for different bits and pieces that might fit in. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at the moment with it.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Aideen? You're muted there, Aideen.
Right. We're service-based, so everything we use is through Google and Google partners. So it's all online, you know, our service as such in the platforms. But we're trying to kind of, it's quite a challenge just staying up to date with, you know, with new staff coming in. We would in the past have done kind of how-to guides and how to build different type of campaigns, but it's all been updated so fast that it keeps going out of date. So it's hard to kind of streamline things and be efficient in that in terms of processes. But we've been experimenting a bit with just more reporting tools and that are done quite manually, where even the analyzing with your eye instead, that we've been trying new reporting software to kind of quicken things, but all springing about quite, you know, challenges as well, just even with ChatGPT, that we've been using it a bit more just with research and stuff like that. But again, we're trying to keep it authentic and that human element too. So it's ongoing, and finding it more a challenge to stay up to date with it, to be honest, than a benefit at the minute, even just with managing the campaigns where the likes of Meta Ads are throwing in copy for you and writing it for you, where it's half of it doesn't make sense. So it can be dangerous just in terms of controlling your brand as well, where there's lots of new betas and tests going out where you can upload your colors and your logo and they're creating the photographs for you and stuff like that. No doubt it'll all come on and it will be all, you know, it'll be legit and all look very good, but it can be quite dangerous, just I think. And if you don't know what you're doing, or wee settings are enabled, some days you go in and there's a setting that is letting the system do everything for you, so with the machine as such. But that's just the way it is, the nature of it with Google, I suppose, too. It's a beast of a machine, so it's just getting quicker and quicker in terms of the updates coming out.
Yeah, we're definitely not there yet. And it's not perfect, you're right. You can't trust it. Even ChatGPT can't be fully trusted. But it's the potential is scary and exciting at the same time, I think.
Yeah, there's definitely, I think even in our industry, you can see where maybe you're talking to clients where they would have invested in a lot of, you know, maybe with outsourcing blog writing and content, stuff like that, where a lot of that can be done in-house now as well. So it's getting the balance right, I think.
Yeah. Thank you. Jenna?
Yeah, so I suppose each business is at its own different stage. With the plumbing and heating business, obviously the guys actually delivering the service has to be face to face, but the remaining aspects of that business are pretty much all there. I suppose there's definitely things that we could do. The immediate one that jumps to my head, and that one would be the marketing and using more automation within the marketing in terms of like the finance aspect, the HR aspect, sales and things like that. I don't think there would be too much more that we could do, but from the marketing angle, we definitely could. There's probably little bits in each business that could be refined. I know there's a lot out there at the minute with Instagram and automation, so that would definitely be something for us to look at, but on a whole, the crux of it, it's pretty much there.
Perfect. Thank you, Patrick.
Yeah, well, we have, I suppose, a certain degree of digitization in relation to I suppose one of our key things recently was product labeling and information, where we have changed over to a new program, which, as you said, was very time consuming for us, but now we can see the benefits of it. So we spent a lot of time doing that for our point of sales throughout our different departments within the business. So that, even though there's been plenty of teething problems in that, it seems to be proven very worthwhile venture. We also, I suppose, have a certain amount of digitization in relation to customer information in relation to ordering, and have trialed a little bit of in-house software which was developed in-house for invoicing. Then we've tried to look at developing, or I've tried to look at developing, some digital library for products as well. And one part of the business has a stock control system, and that's more into the retail side, but the other side for the production does not. So it's definitely an area that we could look at in relation to our stock control system for the production side of the business over the retail. There is a dated in-house costing program, which we have been looking at various companies for buying an off-the-shelf product, and how we can tailor that to our own business and to what products we have. And then again, as I think it was Kyle mentioned earlier, we do a fair amount of digital filing, which is ongoing. So yeah, we do have a fair amount, but there's still a lot more to do in relation to our digitization and different fields and areas which will happen.
Yeah.
But it's finding the ones that will fit us best.
Yeah, well, there's huge potential for digitalization in your business, and because you have a business that's fairly common, there are a lot of products out there that you can use to support your journey. But you're right, it can feel a little bit of a hurdle, and there's challenges, there are risks involved in adopting new technology. You might have business discontinuity, you might have loss of data. Once you're in the cyberspace, you have an additional layer of risks, but it's no longer really a choice. We kind of have to move in that direction. Yeah, thank you so much, Patrick. And I think last but not least, Amy. Amy? Yeah.
Hi. Yes, so we are a structural civil engineering company, so we would have adopted lots of digital things. Oops, sorry, I just realised my camera's pointing in the opposite direction.
Yeah,
we would have adopted lots of different ways of technology very early on. So we moved to Teams for all our meetings. We moved very quickly again to using Teams for our project discussions and our documents and stuff. Again, we are services based, so very good on the communications. We do have a research and innovation department who develop bespoke apps. Again, as a service we offer to people. So a lot of our stuff again is automated. All our timesheets and everything is all an app. What I would say is maybe we've been a bit too enthusiastic. Just in advance of today, I was kind of listing out all the different methods of communication we have within the team. And there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There are 9 different ways that you can communicate with our business with each other and assign tasks to people. So I'm kind of coming in and getting notifications from every angle and don't quite know what's where. So I would say we've maybe gone too far, and we just need to dial it back and think about, yes, technology is wonderful, but actually what's our processes for making sure that we're making best use of it, and we're not just adopting everything because it's all wonderful and fantastic, but not really coordinating it. And like, I don't know if anybody's using Loop yet. That's kind of the latest thing. It's almost like OneNote but different. So it integrates with Planner and Teams, so it's fantastic. And one person's really jumped on that, but then the rest of the business isn't using it. So it's just a bit of a mismatch in what we're doing. But yes, sorry, summary of we're very, very much digitalized.
Sounds great. It sounds more of an issue of integration than the move. So yeah, I mean, that's a strategic aspect. So how do you manage it? How do you make sure that these systems speak to each other? And if they're redundant, then which one do you choose? It also sounds like a waste of resources if you're duplicated work. But you know, awareness is key, and once well, I think your organization is a little bigger than the rest, so it can be a little bit more difficult to manage when you're a little bit bigger in size. But yeah, integration in that space is key, and how you can streamline it essentially. And I have an MGME. I don't know who that is. Hello?
Hi.
Oh, hi. Oh, you're gone. Oh, wow.
Our meeting room. So yes, I suppose we are on the journey of a bit of a transformation. At the minute, we use a construction management app called Procore. So it basically is used to communicate the office to the site. It's used then for, I suppose, accepting deliveries, and also it's used for the quality end of inspections on our work. So we've sort of had that in maybe 4 years at the minute, and it's working quite well. We're also using Breathe HR.
Yeah.
I suppose for managing all aspects of HR from site and office. That would be the thing that we would have an issue with, keeping the communication lines open. And also at the minute we're ready to kind of agree on an ERP system. So we've been using Sage, and we've sort of outgrown it at the minute. We're using it for buying, then also for the accounts end of things, and for the commercial side. So we think we've selected an ERP and we're ready to give it the go ahead and hopefully embrace it.
Perfect. Thank you very much. I think I've heard from everybody. Would you like a comfort break, or should we just push through?
Comfort break, please.
Yeah. Okay. We'll see each other in about 5 minutes then. All right, I'm going to make a start because I'm just conscious of time. So to give you a little bit of an example, I have a couple of examples here of companies that adopted digital technologies. One of them was very proactive and the other one was a little bit more reactive, and embarked on the journey because of COVID, like many of you did. The proactive one is Little Moons. You might have come across it. This is a company that was founded in 2010 by siblings Vivienne and Howard Wong, and they manufacture mochi ice cream. I'm a big fan. If you go to Sainsbury's and Tesco's, you might have seen them. They're basically ice cream balls covered in mochi paste. And they went to retail in 2015, so 5 years after they were founded. And as they went into retail, they started building their social media presence. And it was a very proactive, very intentional strategy. They started looking at the social media channels that were available. They started developing their presence. They developed a product that was intentionally marketable on social media, so very easy to photograph it. It was very easy to market through that channel. But it wasn't until 2021, so 6 years after they went to retail, that they went viral. But this didn't just happen by chance. They positioned themselves to seize that opportunity. Incidentally, it was during lockdown, so maybe people were at home, they weren't able to go to restaurants. I remember they used to offer these in Wagamama's. I'm not sure if it was the same company, but I remember that's where I had them first. So maybe not the inability to go to restaurants made customers a little bit more interested to try new things at home. They went viral on TikTok, especially in Germany. And through that, they saw 700% uplift in sales. Together, they with that uplift in sales, because they weren't able to keep up with demand straight away, because it takes time to increase your supply, they kind of jumped on the bandwagon of a trend that happened on TikTok, which was hunt the last mochi, because there were few on the market, because they hadn't increased their supply yet. There was this trend, this challenge on TikTok where consumers were looking for them. So that increased their value proposition. They embedded that in their marketing strategy, and they were able to leverage that channel really effectively. So just to give you an example of how you would apply this to the business model canvas, you have the value proposition here. They remained fairly consistent with the proposition, delicious and quirky ice cream. They embedded the hunt for Little Moons experiences. So they saw that trend on TikTok and integrated that into what they were offering the market. In terms of customer segments, they were able to standardize the marketing strategy on social media. Having said that, there is a little bit of a self-selection bias there, because yes, you might be targeting all demographics, but it tends to be a specific demographics that is on TikTok, and that is, your teens and 20-somethings. So there is a self-selection there, but from the company's perspective, this is their UK market strategy. They weren't necessarily targeting a specific demographic. In terms of customer relationships, they built this TikTok community. They were using generated content that then resulted in viral marketing. They were partnering with individuals, with content creators. So they embedded that in their channels. In terms of key activities, well, their key partner in this case was TikTok. Key activities, generating content on TikTok. Key resources, content creators, app support technology, developing personalized content. In terms of cost structure, well, in fact, the cost structure of this strategy specifically was quite marginal. They didn't really have to do much in terms of increasing. They just needed to increase their responsiveness to the content on the channel. Revenue streams, well, through the strategy, they saw a rapid rise in UK sales, eco-social costs, perhaps food waste, eco-social benefits, local food production. They started developing a more localized supply chain. So this might not all be accurate. You might place things in different ways. This is just an example of how you might think about your business model and how you might look at each segment in relation to a specific digital technology. And a more relatable, I guess, example for a lot of you would be Wilson's LLP. This was a traditional bricks and mortar organization, a solicitor's office that was, operating as a traditional solicitor's office would. So in a face-to-face manner, paper files. But because of COVID, like many of you, overnight, they had to switch from relying on paper files to using digital files, from seeing clients in the office to seeing clients virtually, conducting regulatory audits face-to-face to conducting these electronically. So things that we thought were impossible before became possible. And while it felt like a steep learning curve, and they were quite reactive in embarking on this journey, it was a sink or swim kind of scenario. They had to do it, otherwise they wouldn't have been able to operate. They still benefit from these changes to this day, and as many of you have said, you also do. So the digital environment, the ability to work remotely, digital files, the ability to avoid printing wherever possible. So they invested in a new digital infrastructure, a new case management and account system, and critically reconfigured the organizational infrastructure to fit these digital infrastructure changes. So this is really important, and it really speaks to what I mentioned earlier. It is really important to have the organization in line with the infrastructure. So it needs to be integrated, it needs to be intentional. And in the financial year, they went digital. So this was 2020, so the first lockdown. The productivity of lawyers increased by 10%, and stationery and printing costs dramatically fell. And as a result of this, they were able to change their business model and change the value proposition that they were offering the market. So in terms of B2B legal services, they were able to offer better access to professional support now remotely. So that was a huge additional value that they were providing. Customer segments, opportunity to reach a wider geographical market. You no longer rely on meeting face to face. So once you're remote, you immediately have access to a much broader market and a number of users. Customer relationships, new online relationship, new opportunities. You're investing in new digital channel. In terms of the operational side, well, you're shifting from manual to electronic processing, new case and account system, ERP systems, cost structures. Well, actually, they would make cost savings because they are not relying on physical resources as much. And you have additional revenue sources because of the remote virtual environment. Eco-social benefits, accessibility for clients due to the ability to meet virtually instead of in person, and a reduction of impact on the environment through remote working tools, and also, people commuting less. Again, an example of how you would view your business model through the lens of digital technology. This would probably apply to a lot of you. One thing I would say with transitions like these is that you need a workforce that is on board. And that's a challenge for many businesses. If you have the end user, so your employees, for example, that are not necessarily on board with the shift, they're not prepared to use new systems, they're not prepared to learn a new HR software, a new account system, then your transition is not going to be very successful. So it's critically important to get them on board. And how do you do that? Wherever possible, you sell the benefits to them. So what is this going to do for you? It's going to reduce your human error chances. It's going to free up your time, and you're going to do much more interesting things, much more value-adding things. Very rarely do you have somebody in your workplace that is there because they're very good at inputting data. So making sure that you're emphasizing what their value is and how they're going to contribute that value more if you make that shift. And especially when you have cross-generational staff, it can be really challenging to get them on board. I am conscious of time, so I'm going to skip this group discussion because we're going to touch upon these points in another group discussion later. And I'm just going to carry on to section 2, artificial intelligence as an opportunity and disruptor. So it wouldn't be a session on digital transformation if we didn't touch upon the notion of artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence in its simplest form is essentially the simulation of human intelligence, human cognition in machines. So what are humans known for? Well, we're known for our problem problem solving skills, understanding language, interpreting expressions, interpreting nuance, recognizing patterns, predicting outcomes. So artificial intelligence is a technology that is able to mimic that in machines, which, as I said, is equally exciting and scary. And there are various levels and levels of complexity of artificial intelligence. If you look at the figure on the slide there, you see various layers to this onion. The outmost layer would be artificial intelligence in its simplest form, and relatively simple tasks. So you would have that ability to problem solve, understand language, recognize simple patterns, predicting simple outcomes. So you could use this in high risk credit decisions, advertising decision making, and manufacturing decisions. So these would be scenarios where the user inputs certain data, and based on that simple data, then you get a certain outcome, and the machine makes that decision for you, which is why, Elaine, I was asking whether it was a person or the machine that was making that decision, because there is a technology out there that, based on a certain profile, it can make the decision for you. But again, at this level, you don't have the nuance, you don't have the human touch. So if that's a huge part of the service, then you would need to employ much deeper levels of AI. Then as you get closer to the core, you increase in complexity. Machine learning is the second layer of AI, and it's a branch of AI that processes huge amounts of data, recognizes patterns in that data, and trains itself from that data. So you don't have to specifically program it to learn. It's learning itself. It trains itself because it's machine learning, it's machine-driven learning, and it will get better and better over time. The more data you input, it will continue to recognize patterns and learn from those patterns. Deep learning is a form of machine learning that uses neural networks to process that data and learn from that data. So machine learning you would have in facial recognition, product recommendations, email automation, and spam filtering. So as it gets certain responses from individuals, from consumers, from companies, it will learn from those responses and continue improving and customizing. In terms of deep learning, you might have self-driving cars, natural language processing, visual recognition, fraud detection. So healthcare, so you have much more flexibility embedded within this. You have real-time decision making, you have real-time responses. And then you have the really interesting technology, which is generative AI. And the reason why this is interesting is that it is as close as we can think of to human cognition, human intelligence. We associate human intelligence with creativity, with originality, with outputs that are original. And we have got to a technology that is there. It's generating original material. It's generating text, images that are original, music that is original, videos that are original. It's processing huge amounts of data, and based on that data, it's producing outputs. That's why it's called generative AI. So your ChatGPTs would be within this space. And we're not where it should be yet. It's not perfect, but because of the machine learning and deep learning technologies, it continues to get better. And I don't know if you've seen any documentaries on AI recently. I saw the one on Netflix that was produced by Bill Gates. And it's fascinating, but really scary, because if the predictions are truth, we will get to a super intelligence fairly soon. And that super intelligence far exceeds what humans can do. It's really exciting because it can help us solve issues that we are not capable of solving around climate change, around environmental issues. But it also, we can't predict and we can't control the intention. Is it going to be used for good, or is it going to be used for evil? Who's going to drive it? Is it going to drive itself? Is it going to turn on humans? It sounds like sci-fi, but I've spoken to enough experts on this that it's not sci-fi. It is quite scary. So understanding where this is going is a challenge. But it's not to say that it's all bad. I mean, the potential for this technology is endless, and we can't comprehend it just yet. But to bring it back to the business level, when it comes to generative AI, there are many ways in which you as businesses can use it. You can enhance your design and creativity capacities, especially if you're operating in creative industries, automating tasks and freeing up more time for human creativity. You can use AI and humans alongside each other, and they can work together. We use it in education. For example, if I'm dealing with a completely new topic that I've never taught before, I might go to ChatGPT and say, okay, give me a list of topics that I may touch upon. And it might give me topics that I hadn't thought of, and then I work on those topics. So you see a co-creation element, and it would be the result of the output would be better than if I had worked on it on my own. And likewise, if ChatGPT was the original source of it and I hadn't done anything. In gaming, you can create immersive gaming experiences by generating game characters, responding to the users, creating dynamic environments that respond in real time to the user choices. Generating content in terms of marketing, education, training, it can create unique original outputs. What I was saying earlier, the originality element that we know humans for is now being mimicked by AI. You might have seen some examples of AI generating songs using known artist voices. The song itself doesn't exist, but they can mimic those voices and create songs that are original, but the artist had nothing to do with it. So that originality aspect, the artistry that we thought would be untouchable, is actually no longer untouchable. Personalized customer interactions using AI-driven chatbots, for example, for customer support. So you're not going to have frustrated customers that are going to get to dead end because the chatbot had not predicted certain scenarios. It's going to use the data that you supply it to respond to more complex scenarios in a more agile and flexible way. Increasing and analyzing data, they are much better at processing and analyzing data than humans are, analyzing market data, demand forecasting, analyzing markets, analyzing competitors and seeing what they do. Healthcare, this is really where the exciting aspect, to me at least, is in research in general. Thus far in research, we rely on scientists and researchers to identify gaps, to see to question things, to see how things might not be aligned. Perhaps we hadn't considered certain elements. But if you have machines that can process that data, they're much better at recognizing patterns and viewing gaps. So that's, I think, where the biggest revolution is going to be. Boost productivity, improve efficiency, so finding ways to do the things that you're doing, but better in more efficient ways and cost-saving ways, or even looking at your capabilities and finding new ways of adding value. So the opportunities are endless. So it's a really exciting time. Just to give you an example of a company that's become one of the staples in AI in the UK is Black Swan, and they partnered with EasyJet after COVID. So EasyJet, as any airline did in the post or during COVID rather, they really struggled, and post COVID they tried to recover, and they partnered with Black Swan to essentially improve their productivity and increase their efficiency. And they commissioned Black Swan to monitor certain routes that EasyJet was running, and specifically to look at the types of passengers that they were flying on those routes, the food consumptions patterns that they were having, so that they would be able to predict the future food consumption patterns to make sure that the food items were there and that food wastage wouldn't be an issue. So they would minimize food wastage and would be better servicing the customers because they knew what kind of consumption patterns they had. So they used AI to forecast and optimize their expenditure and really jumpstart the recovery post-COVID. And another really nice example is Text Help. So this is a company that was founded well before AI in 1994 by Martin McKay in Northern Ireland. And it was and is a literacy, accessibility, and dyslexia software that is aimed at employees and students with reading and writing difficulties. The aim is to help people communicate with accuracy and fluency through the provision of assistive learning solutions. Now, as I said, this was well before AI, but of course AI could play a huge role and really increase the potential of the app. So they developed an AI roadmap for their product. So you can see a quote on the right-hand side there from the company. As a software company, we're really excited about Gen AI, generative AI, and the opportunities that it brings. We're actively investing in AI research and development in this area. In parallel to all the features and functions that we're delivering in our inclusive tools, we also have machine learning and AI, Gen AI roadmap that runs alongside it. So they're recognizing the potential of the technology aimed at supporting the end user, so really providing a better service. There are 3 commitments they have committed to, essentially, when on this journey towards AI: a human-first approach, tackling bias in AI, and protecting user data. A human-first approach, because they are known for their human touch, they recognize that while AI is a powerful tool, it should work alongside human capabilities and not replace them. So a few of you touched upon this. So it's really important to make sure that there's a co-creation element and that humans are still very much involved. Our aim is to help every person pursue their own course of success. And that flexibility is key, and gathering data on the customer, understanding the customer at a deeper level, predicting their patterns is critical to a better provision. Tackling bias in AI, avoiding biases in our AI models by using data and thorough testing. And this is really interesting. It looks like AI technology is producing biased results. And there were huge questions around this. The bias that we see in the media and in our human interactions, they are feeding through to AI outputs. The bias is in the data, not in the technology. So making sure that the data that you are using is unbiased. So you're vetting that data, you're collecting it yourself, you're making sure that you're removing the bias from the data. I'm moving from data to data. I don't know why, but I use them interchangeably. They are interchangeably, but I should stick to one pronunciation. But yeah, making sure that the data is not biased and that you're using clean data that is reliable is really important. And finally, protecting user data. While it might be tempting to feed huge amounts of data into the models, prioritizing safety and data protection, so user safety and data protection, is key. So making sure, again, that you're conscious around the type of data that you're feeding the technology. So I'm going to split you in breakout rooms to talk about this and the potential that these digital technologies have for you, AI specifically, but maybe others. Identify both the opportunities of adopting the technologies and the threats of not doing so. So it is past. I'm going to give you about 10 minutes to have a chat among yourselves, also get to know each other, and then we will have a chat when you're back, and I'll call you back. So I'm going to split you into breakout rooms. There are 3, 4, okay. All right, welcome back. Hopefully you got some good discussion going. I'd be interested to hear what the key points were. So I'm going to start with group number 1, if that's Aideen, Myra, Paula, and Michelle. If anybody wants to just highlight the key points.
Okay. I don't think there was anybody nominating themselves from our group. I suppose, we just talked about how we all use AI in our own business, and people are using ChatGPT and that kind of thing just to speed up content producing and so on. But people are saying now it's quite easy to spot whenever people are producing content in that way. We talked about the benefits in terms of making things more efficient and increasing productivity, but again, also about the risks in terms of the privacy element, who owns the data whenever it goes into one of these AI environments, and the fact that you can get reports back, but if you're putting your information in, then who can access that, which is something that is a risk. We talked about maybe the benefits of how it could be used to, like you had spoke about in the example, for good, such as reducing the environmental impact, and maybe for curing some medical issues that there are around the world, that kind of thing, because obviously it's very intelligent and maybe can do more than what we can do in terms of getting data and making things work. And that's really where we got. I think the consensus was that we need to know more and we need to upskill in this area. I think everyone to be able to use it as effectively as we can.
Brilliant, thank you very much. The second group was Kyle, Sean, Amy, and Sinead.
Yeah, I don't mind speaking on that. We're all kind of similar in the sense that all 4 of us seem to use it to some extent, day to day for little one-off tasks. Amy was mentioning there, she'd put in a 300-page document PDF and it would summarize it for her and things like that. And I've used it for just little logistical headaches and things and querying it that way. So one-off task, but I don't think anyone in our group had really integrated it or created a specific AI tool for a bigger process that they have or a bigger chunk of the business. And I know on my end I've been pitched by a few different companies for property related AI tools, and there's been nothing really that's kind of caught my eye, but I think all of us are using ChatGPT pretty much on a daily basis for one-off queries or summarizing things and things like that.
Great, thank you. I think the point of who owns the data and where does it go is a really good point. And you just don't know. And if it's very confidential data, there is a risk there. So group 3 was Elaine, Jenna, Patrick, and Robbie.
Probably not going to be going into so much detail as everybody else because probably can't. But the areas that we covered were likes of automation in the business, production, and integration seem to be the key areas there for priorities in our businesses. I don't know if anybody wants to elaborate on that.
Yes, no? Okay. Okay, perfect. Hopefully you also got a chat in there to get to know each other. We will all meet again in person next week. And of course, we'll have our peer group sessions on Thursday. So this leads me nicely. I'm glad you mentioned automation because it leads me nicely to section 3, which is a fairly brief section also because we don't have that much time. I think it's reaching the end of the session. So I'll need to speed up the pace now on how you can implement that technology within the business. So if you think about digital technologies and AI specifically, but all digital technologies, if you think about that technology as an employee, then how would you fit it within your business and how would you use it? So this nice figure identifies 4 roles that technology can play, digital technology, AI being one of them. A digital worker, a digital talker, a digital analyst, or a digital thinker. So could you use a digital worker, somebody that, or a technology that would automate your processes, capturing and entering data into system, processing that data, formulating your emails, your texts, your social media, and engaging in fairly simple rule-based decisions. Digital analyst, as I said, these technologies are much better at processing and analyzing data than we are. So could you use it for advanced analytics, data manipulation, predictive analytics? Could you input market data and can it then predict how the market might evolve, unfold? No technology can really predict it to perfect science because there are so many factors at play, but it can certainly do a better job than we can. So co-working with that technology could be really useful. Data visualization, so creating images to illustrate the data. Machine learning and AI, so a digital thinker. Could you use algorithm-driven insight? Could you use this technology to input unstructured data that you can't make sense of, and then it learns from the data, recognizes patterns in their data, and generates structured translation, structured insight that you can then make sense of. This would be much more of a big data focus. So you input huge amounts of data and then the machine processes that data. And then the digital talker, can you use that technology to speak to third parties, to your stakeholders, to your customers? This is much more communication focused. It can use chatbot sentiment analysis to engage in predictive behavior and really flexibly respond to the users that you're engaging with. But of course, while we talked a lot about the opportunities of these technologies and their implementation, there are challenges, and we all know that there are challenges. McKinsey and Be the Business surveyed 1,500 SMEs in the UK about their experiences of tech adoption, and 5 key barriers were identified. First of all, these products are often built for large enterprises, not SME customers. So we know that SMEs are structured differently, they operate differently, they're much more flexible, they're not as structured as large enterprises. Perhaps the staff isn't as specialized. In large enterprises, you might have a number of members of staff that are specifically there to monitor and support digital adoption. In SMEs, it's a little bit of everybody does everything, especially owner managers, founders that are dealing with the day-to-day, they're dealing with the survival and the firefighting, and also have to engage in the digital transformation process. So these products are not specifically built for SME customers, and that can be really challenging. Adoption, this came up earlier, adoption looks too hard and too costly. It is a very steep mountain to climb. It is typically worth it, but for SMEs that are constrained in resources and time, and it can feel like you might lose out, there are risks involved, a lot of them do put it off. Switching fields to high risk. These processes can result in business discontinuity. You might lose data if you already are using a system. Perhaps it's not perfect, but you'd rather the devil you know than the devil that you don't know. So having to take that leap feels risky, and many SME businesses or SMEs don't take that leap. Lack of expertise and execution support. What I was mentioning earlier, you might not have staff that are skilled enough or have the scope to focus on these elements. There's just one thing among many things that you're doing, and therefore you can't give it the attention that it needs. And finally, end user adoption process problems. So the people within your business that are actually having to support this and change and retrain, maybe they don't want to do it. Maybe they don't have the skills to do it. Maybe they have accessibility issues. And that, as I said earlier, can really cause huge troubles in the adoption journey. So if you can't get your teams on board, your journey is unlikely to be very successful. And on that note, I want to touch on accessibility and inclusion. So this is a huge theme in any context. Digital adoption should not create barriers that exclude people. So bear this in mind when you're thinking about the technologies that you are introducing, not only your staff, but also your customers, the people that would engage with those devices. Ability of on-screen documents and systems to be easily navigated and understood. Really think about employees and stakeholders, including customers that might have visual, auditory, motor, or cognitive disabilities. think about how you can engage in the process in a very inclusive and accessible way. You have to create a policy within your organization to make the organization digitally accessible. So I remember, Paula, you mentioned that a lot of your customers would be quite adverse to technology. So that's something that you would consider as well. So would the adoption of technology cause an accessibility issue? So making sure that you are keeping this at the core of your journey. And then finally, just let me check the time. Yes, it's fine. I want to touch on cybersecurity and digital business. Many SMEs often think they're too small to be at risk, but really we're all at risk, individuals and businesses alike. 32% of all UK businesses reported a cyber attack in the past 12 months. So cybersecurity, when you're dealing with the cyber realm, is critical. And when I talk about cybersecurity, I talk about the function that protects the devices you use and the services that you access from theft or damage. It's all about protecting your organization, preventing unauthorized access to personal information, not only yours and your staff, but also your customers. So making sure that you're creating a layer of protection around the business. Common types of cyber attacks: malware, malicious software that is installed on your devices and it breaches a network by installing risky software. It can capture and steal your data. You might see it through, a link on a dangerous email. You click on it and it installs malicious software on your devices. Phishing, which is quite similar, sending fraudulent communication, usually email, that appear to come from a reputable source. So if you have a line manager, that email might seem like it's coming from your line manager, and therefore you trust it. You might share sensitive information with that person. They can steal that information. They might steal your login information, or again, install malware on your device. Or man in the middle, attackers insert themselves into a two-party transaction. So if you're using an unsecure public Wi-Fi, the attackers can insert themselves between the victim's device and the network, and again, steal your data. So really important to think about cybersecurity. And oh, did I skip a slide? Yes, I want to move to this slide first. And on that note, the UK National Cyber Security Centre has created an array of resources that SMEs can access to ensure that you're protecting your company from cyber attacks. So step 1, backing up your data. Step 2, protecting your organization from malware. Step 3, keeping your smartphones and tablets safe. I remember one of the participants on the previous cohorts had a light bulb moment when we talked about this, because she remembered that one of the former employees that had parted on pretty bad terms with the company still had access to the devices and also the social media that the companies was using. So making sure that you're protecting yourself from these kinds of potentially harmful relationships, because they could use that access against you. Using passwords to protect the data, changing your passwords frequently, avoiding phishing attacks. So there's an array of resources that you can access. You have access to these slides on Canvas. So if you go to the National Cybersecurity Centre, there are links, and you can then check what your processes are and whether they're secure. So you can go to this link here, and you can answer a few questions to get a free personalized action plan that lists what you can do to protect your business against cyber attacks. So I skipped through the slide. I also skipped through it because I think it's a little patronizing to tell businesses that they need to think about GDPR, because I think we're there yet, this. But the slide is there, so I'll mention it. Take GDPR seriously. The fines can be very hefty. So again, don't fall into the risk of thinking that you're too small for these kinds of attacks. Especially if you're using sensitive customer data. So what did we talk about today? So we talked about the technologies that you can use to enhance the innovation in your business models. We talked a little bit about artificial intelligence, both as an opportunity and as a market disruptor. in a positive and negative sense. We talked a little bit about the issues relating to the implementation of digital technologies, and then I gave you some information on where to access the UK government cybersecurity resources. We will meet again on Thursday. So for that call, just have a think about your digital transformation journey. We will have a chat about where you're at, things that you might take away from the session. What can AI and other digital technologies do for your organization? And if you have time, have a look at the cybersecurity questions on that website. Have a look at, you know, if there's anything that you're not doing that you might want to embed within your cybersecurity action plan. And then we can have a chat about this together on Thursday. And I mentioned this last week as well. If the slot that you've been allocated doesn't work for you, there are 4 slots during the day: 10 to 11, 11 to 12, 2 to 3, and 3 to 4. So if you let us know, we can just slot you into a different one if you need. Any questions or comments? No? Okay, well, in that case, I'll let you go and I'll see you on Thursday.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.